joining us now is Ojy Okpe, with stories trending around the world. Hello, Ojy.
Good morning, Doctor. Do you know, this guy has been making me laugh all morning. How are you, Leila? You look beautiful. Good morning, Dr. Abati. How are you?
Good morning, I'm fine.
Good to see you. Well, good morning to you, viewers. We begin what's trending today with breaking news. Nigerian reggae singer and guitarist MajekFashek, popularly known as MajekFashek, has died. He was 57 years old. According to reports, the musician died in New York City on Monday evening. MajekFashek was best known for his 1988 album, Prisoner of Conscience, which contained the hit song, Send Down the Rain. Now, in memory of the late singer, let's take a quick listen to the music.
Everything in life has got its time and seasons, so you don't have to ask me why. You don't expect to sow cassava, to reap yam. You don't expect to sow rice and reap cassava. Whatsoever I and I sow in this world, more shall we reap. 'Cause I'm a living man, got a lot of work to do. Send down the rain. Yo, yo, send down the rain. I'm a living man, I got a lot of work to do. Send down the rain. Mama, yo, yo, send down the rain.
So sad, may his soul rest in
May
perfect
his
peace.
soul rest in perfect peace. I remember dancing to this music as a little girl. I'll never forget this.
You were a
tune when
little girl?
I was a little girl.
When MajekFashek
When I
ringing.
first heard this song, you know, the musician has been battling a lot of illness for the past year, I believe. And, you know, reports say he died in New York City. He's been getting some treatments in London as well. So, you know, the cause of death is not yet known at this point. So hopefully, you know, during the course of the week, we'll know
Condolences
better.
to his family.
Yes.
Well, MajekFashek was one of those true originals who lit up the musical scene, the creativity scene in Nigeria in the late 80s and the early 90s. You referred to Prisoner of Conscience and Send Down the Rain, which has become an evergreen song, one of the major classics of the later part of the 20th century in Nigerian art. In fact, Send Down the Rain became so popular, and MajekFashek's performance of that particular song so remarkable that it was said that anytime he performed that song and he went on stage, if he says Send Down the Rain, at the end of the day, rain will start falling.
Like rain is falling right now too in Lagos. You know that.
Now that you have played the song, don't be surprised when we step out of the studio, you know, rain will start falling. So MajekFashek is one of those artists who go from just being an artist to becoming a legend. And I think he will be remembered for all times for his talent. Apart from Send Down the Rain, he also had So Long, Too Long, which was also a very famous song. But as it happened, he went off the scene. He had to battle with illnesses. There were speculations that this was due to drug addiction. But you see, as artists, what we remember is the work of the artist.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, and I'm sure that his legacy would continue to endure. And it was also a source of inspiration, a role model for a generation of artists that emerged after him.
Yes.
It was thought that he would become the next Bob Marley. That did not happen. But we cannot condemn artists for the way they choose to live their lives. We've had many artists. Joe Orton was even a thief. You know, we have had artists who were pure criminals. But what we celebrate is their creativity. And I would like to use this occasion to also thank Femi Otedola, who came to his rescue, I think in 2019, when his condition got really bad. He recovered, and then now he's dead. But he has left behind a legacy, the impact of which is unerasable, you know, in terms of his contribution to the art industry in Nigeria.
Yes, certainly. May his soul rest in peace, and our condolence to his family. Still in Nigeria, the governor of Kogi State, in an apparent acknowledgement of the confirmed COVID-19 cases in the state, ordered a 14-day absolute lockdown of Kababonu local government area effective from midnight today, June 2nd. According to the governor, during the lockdown, house-to-house movement will be prohibited. The governor also promised that palliatives will be distributed from house to house within the local government area. Kogi State had been at loggerheads with the federal government and NCDC over governor's claim that COVID-19 was not in the state. I mean,
Well, it had to happen at some point.
What can I say?
It was just a day
Congratulations, Bello.
I know, it actually sounds like somebody
Yes.
should say
I mean,
congratulations.
it's like a huge celebration right now.
Revelation.
Although the state government also made it clear that any attempt by the NCDC to keep reporting that there are COVID-19 cases in Kogi State will be met with a stiff resistance. And I do not see the reason why the Kogi State government has to still embark on that combative line. But what we know is that, in Kogi State, the chief imam of Kaba was said to have been the person who came down with COVID-19 symptoms. And then he was referred to Abuja. And as the Director General of the NCDC told us on this program, the samples were taken, and then it was confirmed that this was a case of COVID-19. In the process also, I think his son was also affected. So 2 persons in Kababunu local government. And what the state government has now done is to accept reality that, Kogi State is not immune automatically from the COVID-19 pandemic. And the governor has placed a 2-week total lockdown.
Which is great.
On that local government. And this governor should go a step further, now that COVID-19 has finally shown up in Kogi State, to also cooperate with the Federal Ministry of Health and the NCDC to make sure that there's more contact tracing, because these 2 persons will have had contact with other people.
Yes.
So there's now need for contact tracing, for more testing, and you should step down.
It should be an emergency at this point.
On the politics.
Because who knows?
Because nobody needs that political rhetoric.
Yes, I hope this serves as a lesson as well. I mean, coronavirus is not a disease that you should be like, wishing away. You can't politicize it. You can't say, well, it's not going to happen in Kogi State. It just seems like some sort of,
the worst thing you
mystical
can do,
Bible reading or something like, we cannot have COVID-19 in our state.
Because, the worst thing you can do as a leader is to be in denial, especially when you know that is risking the lives of your people. It's so wrong in every way whatsoever. So,
Yes.
it's still not, there's nothing to write home about the fact that he's still so apprehensive towards the NCDC, their involvement in any way, saying any cases that come in will be met with apprehension. Is that the way a governor should be responding in the middle of a global health pandemic? Absolutely not. It's just shocking.
Yes.
It's still just
But
so
I'm very happy about this response. I'm happy that it didn't come too late, now that he's, enforced a lockdown in that area. So I hope that, from now he can continue with the contact tracing, like you've said. Well, let's take another story in Nigeria. Users on social media have reacted to the relaxation of the ban on religious gatherings across the country. On Monday, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation and Chairman of the Presidential Task Force, Boss Mustafa, announced that President Muhammadu Buhari had approved the relaxation of the ban for 4 weeks. Now, let's take some social media reactions. One user wrote, "Churches and mosques are opening, but the schools can't open till further notice because your government cares so much about your health that they came to realization that coronavirus cannot enter the church or mosque because the virus is an atheist." Very thoughtful. I thought that was a funny tweet. Then another user wrote, "Churches and mosques are opening, but airports are yet to open. I like how we don't shy away from our priorities in this country. Ojy Okpe and his cohorts can go back to collecting regular tithes and offerings so they can stop disturbing us with 5G conspiracy theories." Finally, Tolu Ogulisi wrote, reopening of churches and mosques is not unqualified. There are conditions attached. It is a restricted opening, working on agreed protocols reached between state governments and religious leaders, mandatory masks, limited opening hours, physical distancing, etc.
And Tolu Ogunsi, he also took it a step further on Twitter to also speak about the fact that he was like, anybody comparing religious centers reopening to schools reopening, he was like, schools reopen every day. That's a daily schedule. He was like, in terms of religious centers, this is a one-day thing a week with guidelines, which, to be fair, I did also kind of understand. But still, I can't believe the government did actually say that religious centers can start to reopen. I do think it is a bit too soon. I was not expecting that.
I agree with you. I was just going to ask you what your take is on that.
But I think the point should be made clear that what the federal government is proposing is that churches should open only once a week, you know, and then maybe the mosques only on Fridays. It's not as if they've been given a blanket, you know, ticket to open every day. You know, some of these churches, they conduct services on Monday, on Tuesday. You know, there are services devoted to counseling women who are looking for husbands, divorcees who are looking for the favor of God, people who are looking for, you know, the fruit of the womb, as they call it, you know. So the government is not saying, you know, just open and begin to do programs every day. But on Sundays, you can worship. However, Tolu Ogunlesi is right. It doesn't mean that, you know, the guidelines have been abrogated. And then again, the rule that you cannot have more than 20 persons coming together in a gathering is still in place. But the federal government has also said states, due to their own negotiations with the religious leaders, can decide what to do and what should be. And then there was a clause that was mentioned by Boss Mustafa to say that this is subject to review. And I think that the religious leaders should be mindful of that. Because once you tell people, oh, you can now go to church, you can now go to mosque, you will also need to enforce it.
But that is the fear right now. That is the fear because everyone, exactly, that is the biggest fear right now because of the disciplinary actions that take place in Lagos. I don't know what would happen. I mean, remember when they said you could not, when it started, when the ban was on enforced in Lagos, there were a lot of flouting of the orders. So I believe that at this point, where it is almost like a spike, especially in Lagos State, I don't think it's a good idea. I really don't. I mean, I don't think
the honest truth is, we already know the outcome,
we are
right?
at the peak of the virus at this point in Lagos State, and I think this is the wrongest time to actually lift that ban.
The Lagos State government has also come up with an 18-page document in which it provides guidelines. But as I said, enforcement will be very critical.
Yeah.
So it's the challenge now going forward is on the side of enforcement. And people also taking responsibility. And you're absolutely right. People don't respect these things.
No.
During the, was it the Eid al-Fitr, when some states decided that people could worship. You brought the stories here. You know, people just congregated.
You were going to say something.
Yeah, because I was saying that from what we've seen so far, and we've discussed it so many times, when the lockdown was first eased, then when it was eased again, we said the reality is people are going to flout the guidelines. The reality is if you give religious centers the opportunity to open for one day a week, no matter if it's just one day a week, the reality is for us to sit here and say that people are not going to flout the guidelines means that we're deceiving ourselves and everybody else. We already know that that is going to be the reality in a lot of churches and mosques across the country, so it should definitely be of worry. I mean, hey, let's not deny it, you know?
Yes.
But Ojy, let's take a quick commercial break and we'll come back for more stories on what's trending. Do stay with us. This is still the morning show here on Arise News. Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. We're still looking at what's trending today with Ojy Okpe. Back over to you, Ojy.
Yes, well, let's head over to the United States now, where an independent autopsy has determined that George Floyd died of asphyxiation from sustained pressure. The findings differ from an official preliminary examination carried out by the county's medical examiner. The autopsy commissioned by Floyd's family says compression to the neck and back caused by officers kneeling on him led to a lack of blood flow to the brain. The attorney for the Floyd family, Ben Crump, said Floyd was essentially dead on the scene in Minneapolis on May 25th when a police officer knelt on him.
I mean, whatever the county medical examiner had to say from the beginning was never going to make any sense whatsoever.
That's another reason why people are so outraged by this actual story, because first of all, they said that, you know, there was no strangulation in the beginning. And
meanwhile, we all watched a police officer step on his neck for 9 minutes.
We saw 4 officers on his back, and then a police officer taking his life away from him. Everyone saw that in video. I mean, this news is just like what we've seen already in the video. So I don't know why the first report was inaccurate.
Well, whatever the autopsy says,
yes,
what has been unanimously agreed is that this is a case of racial murder, racially motivated, murder, and that is unacceptable. And across the United States and across the world, people are asking for justice. And I think that we have to reiterate that in this particular case and in similar cases, justice must be done. Jane Elliott, an anti-racism American activist, has continued to insist that, look, in the United States, race remains a major problem. And you find all kinds of scandalous situations. Either it is a man walking in a park or, someone who is being arrested for one matter or the other. There is a difference in terms of how the police treat people on the basis of color.
Correct.
And that cannot be acceptable in a country that is seen as the land of freedom. And, a country that is said to be a country that, your dream can be fulfilled. Increasingly, we see that there are variations in how that dream is allowed to be fulfilled, whether it is normal relations or even in the management of COVID-19, where we're told that minorities in the United States have been the biggest victims. In all of this, in the George Floyd matter, in the justice for George Floyd matter, I think we should also condemn the behavior so far of President Trump.
I have that story for you.
It's a very contradictory response.
That's my next story.
That we have seen from him.
It's
and
appalling.
I think that he has not shown the kind of leadership that can unite the United States at a critical time when unity, justice, fairness are the issues that the American community should be talking about.
Very well said, Dr. But before we take Donald Trump's story, let's take this one story so that we could, share how this racial profiling really happens in America. Well, in the wake of the protests against racism and racial profiling, a video of white police officers in an attempt to arrest a black man on the grounds of mistaken identity has gone viral. Let's take a quick look at this video before we come back for a discussion.
Racial profiling? Am I? Yeah, you're wrong. You're assuming I'm someone that I'm not. Are you Jake?
No, I'm not Jake.
You look like Jake.
There you go. I look like Jake.
But you're Jake. I don't have any officers.
Hey, yo. Hey, officer.
No. Matter of fact, look at my ID.
He got the wrong guy, I'm telling you.
To assume I'm somebody I'm not? My ID's in my back pocket. Watch how funny this is. Go ahead.
Watch this.
No, don't hate me. Look at it. Oh, what does that say?
Fucked up.
What does that say? Oh.
Wrong guy.
Oh.
Wrong guy.
And the revelation. They realized that they just arrested an FBI agent. How? No, what next? No, really and truly, at this point, what next? But I love the way he held his ground. I would recommend all viewers out there to watch that entire video. Obviously, we can't play the whole video now. I mean, not only was he really going hard to defend himself, but the way he stood his ground was so important, especially in the fight that everybody is going through right now.
Yes.
Quite frankly, what they did was racial profiling. It was wrong, and it was an FBI agent. And now they're going to have to face the repercussions for that.
I hope one of these days they won't make the mistake of arresting President Obama.
They could. You never know. They could.
Just because they will profile him as black.
Yes.
Or if he's not President Obama, maybe a justice of the Supreme Court who happens just to be black.
But this
I
is
think
the
it's
struggle.
an issue. It's an issue that the United States would need to deal with. This reminds us of the legacy of slavery and the stigmatization, the dehumanization of the black man. And a rollback, a derogation from the achievements of those black heroes like Martin Luther King, who fought, for a place for the black man in the United States. And it's most unfortunate that this happens at a time when you have a president who has also been accused of racism and who has been accused for all kinds of retrogressive policies that takes the United States back to the past. I hope that a time will come when the American people will have to deal with these issues.
Yes.
And it's good to see that the people are talking about it. But President Trump's response is to call out the federal guard.
Yeah, we'll take that story. But you see, my happiness with this is that we're in the day of social media where people can record these things. You know, back in the days, there was no, we didn't have these access to social media, phones or recordings or sending stuff. So a lot of these Africans have died, have gone through this type of racial profiling without anybody knowing. And so that's the anger. Generally, if it was just an ordinary guy, right, a police officer would come to this guy and say, show me your ID. You'll show the ID, correct? But the fact is he knows. This guy knew that it was because of racial profiling. Yeah. That's why he was upset. That's why he was angry with the cops.
Yeah, I mean, the first thing you did as a cop, before even asking for his ID, was you handcuffed him. So you arrested him before even identifying the person that you arrested, which is why in the video he said, anybody can become a cop in America today. Right. That's why he said anybody can become a cop. He was like, y'all are really cops. Yes. Anyone can be a cop at this point. Because if you're actually arresting someone before being able to identify them and being sure of their identity, that's a huge problem.
Yes, well, let's take a final story in the U.S. and the move to put an end to the protests in several cities across America. President Donald Trump on Monday threatened to deploy the United States military into the streets to quell the rise of violent protests, while he declared himself the president of law and order. Let's take a listen.
Today, I have strongly recommended to every governor to deploy the National Guard in sufficient numbers that we dominate the streets. Mayors and governors must establish an overwhelming law enforcement presence until the violence has been quelled. I am your president of law and order and an ally of all peaceful protesters. But in recent days, our nation has been gripped by professional anarchists, violent mobs, arsonists, looters, criminals, rioters, Antifa, and others. We have one beautiful law, and once that is restored and fully restored, we will help you, we will help your business, and we will help your family.
Sounds to me a bit like a midlife crisis. I mean, Antifa is now a terrorist organization. A domestic organization can be a terrorist organization against someone's First Amendment rights. I'm a bit confused.
Well, at over 70, it's certainly not going through a midlife
whatever
crisis.
the case may be.
But whatever it is, I think that, President Trump is behaving true to character. And at every point, we have said that this is condemnable. But where he's coming from is the fact that there has been violence on the streets.
Sure, we understand
in Minneapolis, in Atlanta, in New York, shops have been looted, buildings have been set ablaze, and even there was an attempt in Washington, D.C. on the White House, and he referred to those people as thugs. He has since expanded his expletives, referring to them as arsonists and criminals. But what President Trump must realize, and what he needs to be told, is that he must not lose the perspective. The persons who are on the streets, they are protesting against injustice. They are protesting against murder. And I do not think that the right response is to turn the guns on them. If he's talking about law and order, then he should be talking about law and order in terms of respect for the dignity of every human person within the American territory, whether be they Latinos or Hispanics or blacks or Caucasians. And that's where I think that, he drops the ball all the time. In terms of not getting
military vehicles. I mean, at this point, there are protests everywhere across the world. Look at Hong Kong. Yeah. I mean, what is he talking about?
Even in London. I mean, at the end of the day, are you really expecting that people are not going to protest over another brutal killing?
You know what I love mostly? I mean, the videos that I've seen circulating where the police officers have been taking the knee and been joining the protests. I really love that unification. But I mean, I think that, the police officers are able to handle the protests. I don't know why.
I would like to see a situation
military vehicles
whereby also in Nigeria,
inside,
when you have these issues, whether it is UWA in Edo State or TINA in Lagos, that Nigerians also will be able to show this sense of outrage.
Oh, big protest
when human lives are needlessly wasted extrajudicially by police authorities. You can see in the United States a community response that is sustained, and the people saying enough is enough. In Nigeria, we need to learn from this to see that citizen action is important when you are confronted with injustice.
Certainly,
Yes.
but in terms of, I think it's important to also note that Uniben students did protest yesterday
Yes, I saw
in
footage.
Benin, which was
I saw
really
all
good.
Of that.
Yeah.
I saw all that footage. I mean, congratulations to everyone who's standing up for the fight against racism, against all of the violence going on across the globe.
Well,
Certainly.
Ojy, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
Thank you, guys.